Yo, what's up, guys? It's your favorite esports host and Twitch streamer, ChuBoi, and you're listening to the FUT Weekly Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another Capture Event special. I'm your host Ben, and ChuBoi, do we have a lot of FIFA 18 coming up. In the next hour, I cover squad battles, AI, and game mechanics with Futhead's Zimmerman. I ask traders FUT Economist and WyseFIFA how to get the best start to this year's FUT, discussing everything from investments and techniques to EA access and starter leagues. Plus, I get you the inside scoop and in-game stats on some outstanding starter players. But first, let's get ChuBoi's thoughts on FIFA 18 live from the Capture event.
So I would say the most significant change in FIFA 18, it's got to be, I guess, the lack of AI right now in terms of defending. I know that in 17, everybody said that, AI was too much. I mean, I kind of like that it was too much because I'm not the best defender. But, a lot of the pros are saying that there was a lot of auto blocks from defenders, which I agree with. But, at the same time, it kind of gave an advantage to me because, when you have Rio Ferdinand, he blocks everything. Yeah. But now there's kind of a real lack of AI. Like, they really don't step in at all for you when you expect them to. So it's kind of hard to make that switch to, having the CPU do a lot for you to having them do literally, like, almost nothing for you. I think it's, like, really manual. I was talking to Gorilla, and he thinks, they went from 100% AI to, like, 0. And now it needs to be pushed up to like a 30,
So those guys think that maybe should go up a bit more from what it is now?
Yeah, actually, even some of the pros think they should go up a bit more.
Okay.
Because now it's like non-existent. They're like, yeah, this is what we asked for, but it's like too much of what we asked for.
There are a lot of goals, aren't there, at the moment?
Exactly, and you're seeing this at the Capture event. It's very high scoring, and I'm seeing games that are like 7-5. People that I know they're usually like really good defenders are conceding. I mean, in Gamescom, this is a bit further on than the Gamescom build that I played, but I mean, I played a Tim Locke, a Schalke pro, and I scored 5 past him. I mean, he did win 10-5. But, I mean, I did score 5 goals against a pro. I mean, I guess that shouldn't happen, And that was, like, my second time playing the game.
Great. My next question would be, who's been your favorite player to use so far? Maybe, like, a higher-rated player to start off.
Oof, I mean, I haven't had the time to play with too many icons. I know Ralph played with Ronaldinho, and he's insane. He has real great dribbling. I mean, it's crazy how he looks just like how he would on a real pitch.
His dribbles in the same way, doesn't he?
Yeah, he dribbles in the same way. It's like he kind of just dribbles for you. It feels weird. Like even though when he loses out on a dribble, he just kind of gets the ball back somehow. And his finesse shots are ridiculous. I was watching some of the other guys play with Thierry Henry. I saw Taz play with Thierry Henry, and he looks insane. In terms of like regular players, I would say. Smalling's still OP, along with Baye. Also, Conte is incredible, as is Ronaldo. Messi feels really good as well. And I would say Sadio Mane was actually ridiculous for me. Incredibly pacey.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And still pretty strong. I think if he gets like 3 informs, I think we're in for a lot of trouble.
And also, I do feel like finishing is maybe less important.
Yeah, I won't lie to you. The keepers are not too great right now. Slightly better than Gamescom, but still, I mean, low-driven shots just go right in, man. It's not even like you don't have to try.
And I think my other question would be, I know you're not like, you're not a pro player, for example. You're like many people who be listening, obviously, are also not in that situation themselves. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like this game has enough to offer? I mean, obviously you've got squad battles, but are you slightly disappointed they didn't like drop the number of weekend league games or add in like a gold cup equivalent?
Well, I mean, the thing is that they haven't announced the changes and if there are changes in the weekend league or not. I mean, you don't know if what we're seeing right now in this build is just literally, they just ported over what was in 17 just, for the sake of it. Have they implemented the changes to Weekend League or not, I think it's probably too early to tell until they've said something official. I would say if they haven't said anything, then we shouldn't just assume that.
We should point out that you don't still work for EA at this point.
I don't still work at EA, but it's just like.
You feel that might be the case?
As somebody that, it's like, there's something about the FIFA community I never get. They always make exceptions before things are announced. It's so weird. It's like, if nobody from me has said anything, then why would we assume that it's just like that? You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I always see things, no matter what game now that I've worked on that other side.
Yeah.
But I would say chill. Until now?
Yeah, just wait until you get some proper news.
And I'm not actually alluding to that. I really have no fucking idea what's coming to FUT. I really, swear. Like, if I know the changes coming to FUT Champions or if there are changes, United's going to get relegated. Yeah. That's how strongly I feel about that, I don't know anything. So,
do you think an improvement in gameplay is enough to kind of tempt you to play a bit more, I don't know, weekend league and things?
I mean, for me, weekend league and FUT Champions, I mean, that mode isn't for me.
Yeah.
To me, it's for the pros and people who want to be pros. I don't play. I'm competitive. I won't lie to you, but not necessarily to the FUT Champions level. But at the same time, I really don't like playing offline. I think squad battles is a great idea for those who do. I think they were missing something in FIFA 17, honestly, that squad battles fill. So I feel that people who do like non-competitive stuff, or competitive in the sense, to just like leaderboards, stuff like that,
and
I think
decent
that is
rewards as well, I suppose. Yeah.
and decent rewards. I think that's perfect for them. It gives them something to do.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you not feel like there's a bit of a gap in between though? You've got like FUT Champs and then you've got squad battles. Where's the like semi-competitive kind of drop-in online sort of mode?
I guess the things that could fill that gap would be silver seasons, bronze seasons, that kind of stuff, where you can have a bit of fun, but still
that's something
play.
you'd like to see, yeah.
I think that's something that I would like to see for those people who want it. I remember I was talking to Iron French.
Yeah, I was gonna say Iron
exactly,
French on that.
like,
Yeah,
Iron French. I didn't really notice because I honestly was not like a gameplay guy. I just used to trade, sit down and trade. But FUT Champions did get me off of that and made me get way better at the game. But I now saw with Iron French, I was like, yeah, there's a group of people, there's a market of people who are not necessarily into either camp. So there's that thing missing. I mean, the problem is that it's not just on EA, it's like gaming in general is going to that super competitive zone. So it's like, is putting the resources into something that's for a market that doesn't necessarily show their appreciation for that kind of thing. How is the company going to tell that is worth the time to put in when all those people are going to, I'm not going to say all those people are going to do, or is not say how much they love it, but they're not going to be, out there talking about, oh my god, I did this. Where like something like the esports or FUT Champions, you see that.
Yeah.
You see that kind of thing, So I don't know, it's tough.
It'll be interesting to see how it develops, won't it? Because I don't know, I slightly think that if they didn't drop the games, you'd see like a quicker drop-off in this FIFA because it's not it won't have changed much.
I mean, I guess they can
change it up a bit.
They can. I'm guessing new content. That's one thing they could do. I think there's still that gap between FUT birthday and team of the season, and then after team of the season, I think the problem with this year was honestly that after this team of the season, I think they announced icons and FIFA 18 stuff earlier than usual. So as soon as we saw that, I was like, oh, well, screw this.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Exactly. I think that's what happened. And then luckily, we have World Cup coming for next summer. So I think the hype is going to be bigger since it is World Cup. And hopefully they release something new.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And I'm sure you'll be doing plenty on it when it comes out. Where can people find you?
Oh, my goodness. They can find me on twitter.com/ChuBoi, on twitch.tv/ChuBoi7, youtube.com/ChuBoi.
ChuBoi, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
As always, thank you guys.
Before we get into starting out trading and investing with our man at FUT_Economist, I got the verdict of Futhead's lead editor Luke Zimmerman on squad battles and other new additions. I started by asking him what he made of the gameplay this year.
Yeah, I was actually talking with Sway back here at the London Capture event a little bit ago, not to name drop too terribly much, but, and I told him something that I found kind of reassuring about this year's game is that in previous years, if you're lucky enough to be selected for the beta, or if, opportunities afford you the chance to play the game before its release, many of us have seen that the beta or these earlier builds don't actually wind up jiving with the reality of the finished product. And now that we've played the finished game, the one that's going to be released in about 10 days or less, I guess now it's closer to 7 for EA Access, 7 to 8 days from now. I think what's really stands out to me is that the game is so similar. I first played it at the end of July. I was lucky enough to go out to EA to talk some Futhead database related type stuff for FIFA 18. And I had an opportunity to play an early build of the game then, and it really hasn't changed too terribly much. There's been, some polish here and there, some bit shine, but I wouldn't describe any of the changes as dramatic, game altering, no crazy new features. They had a really good concept. They'd already executed it from the get-go, and they've just spent the last couple months refining it.
So that's kind of a positive that they've had so long to kind of work on a...
Yeah, I think this is my, second or third beta. I forget which exactly. I don't know what to classify as a beta when you have the opportunity to play a little bit before games come out, but every single one until now has been pretty different. Like, they try something and then they kind of walk it back a little or a lot. This feels pretty close to the beta. There's some, I think, the things that I've noticed the most different are on the offensive side of possession. But if you like the manual defending, if you know the meme, whether you love it or hate it or love to hate it, that esports ready, they're trying to put their money where their mouth is to kind of quell that this year, I think, and really make to really truly make sure that every win or loss is not just there's always going to be randomness because it's a game and it's based on sports in which randomness is a huge impact on things. But I think the players will have a lot more control. And if you're an OG manual defender, I know many in Futhead's Twitter comments, many in the comments on our site as well, profess to, I only manual defend and get indignant at the idea that someone would benefit from some assisted defending. But if you're really that good, if you're as good as you think you are, then this FIFA is going to be for you.
And at least on the other hand, if it's sort of very manual defending is like an unmitigated disaster, they've got an argument, the other direction to say, well, we need to bring back a slightly more assisted.
Yeah, I mean, they can't. I don't think they can cater too terribly much to the pro player or esport athlete, I guess, as it were. If they go too far in that direction, then we will see like a November, December patch. But that's not. I don't think that's the case. I think that a lot of the people that were clamoring for this and claiming that all their defeats were the result of assisted defending, some of those same people might be saying bring back assisted defending, just because that's how the internet works. That's how the FIFA community can be at times. We love them. I think that I'm optimistic that just based on the positive response that we've heard here from YouTubers, from pros, the kind of guys that play the game a ton, even to folks that are more like you and myself that maybe like we're not, our gameplay isn't what brought us here. Everybody is universally enjoying it, and I think that tells me that they've found kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been positive. I haven't heard any overall complaints about the game. A few things that people have problems with, but there's nothing drastically problematic.
I think any of the negative reactions we've heard in the least have just been the same kind of stuff that happens in every year's game. You get a bad pack, or me, I spent like the equivalent of $10,000 US, probably 9,700 pounds, or whatever the equivalent may be, chasing Paul Pogba. I really wanted Paul Pogba. I'm not going to tell you guys why, but I desperately wanted to not only pack Paul Pogba, but I'll bring you guys a video of Pogba, walking out and whatnot. I'll have to wait for the game itself because that didn't happen. I used all those FIFA points and like the 5 or 6 million coins I earned from discarding duplicates and selling a couple extra players. Never got a Paul Pogba. Stuff like that, where you're like, come on. The very last pack, I was down to my last 125,000 coins to open an ultimate pack, 30 rare gold cards, and I see France CDM Conte, which I mean, hey, if that wasn't my 5th Conte of that insane, unrealistic, like I will never have the resources to do this on a club that I own, sort of opening, I think that'd be pretty. That kind of stuff is what we heard. Or people that there's always these kind of bing bang goals where things just go wild, or like someone gets a nutty deflection. I think you had like almost. I don't know. I'm sure it was definitely influenced by your skill, but you had like a really crazy skill goal against me with Nani, and it's just like
overhead flicked it.
It didn't seem like you were purposely doing it. Like you executed it, and it just happened to work out. Stuff like that, where you're just like, really, like. I think that's going to be consistent from year to year.
But that's the beauty of the game as well. Like it wouldn't be. You've got to be able to score those goals, otherwise the game just isn't as fun. So.
No, I mean, you absolutely have to have kind of that sweet with the sour. You have to have, those crazy goals that you can't believe you pull off, that go hand in hand with them happening against you, right? Like that's what makes them so riveting and so frustrating, is that you can't believe that you gave up that header in the 93rd minute, and then when you are the one on the receiving end of the 93rd minute, it's just about the best thing.
Yeah, and let's talk about the casual gamer offering that they've kind of vamped up this year. Entirely new mode, squad battles. It's not something that's hugely interested in me as someone who doesn't play offline, but I know you've played a fair bit of offline in your time, and how does it kind of compare to previous modes? Does it draw you in, and what was it like to play?
Yeah, when I first got into Ultimate Team around FIFA 13, FIFA 14, I've been playing FIFA much longer than that, but just never really dived in until then. I was truly an offline gamer. I didn't have enough faith in my ability to play online. I didn't, I thought that, the game was best experienced kind of in my own building team and kind of getting better and better against the higher difficulties of the computer than it would be like just getting humiliated by people that outclassed me. And eventually I kind of caved and dove in and, took some humblings at the beginning and probably still am taking them regularly playing. I played about the first 10 or so weekend leagues before taking a break. So I definitely have taken my fair share of lumps in that regard. I would say I'm primarily an online gamer. Currently, at least in terms of FUT, I play career mode offline against some of the higher difficulties and enjoy that. But I do sim a lot too, right? So I think though this year there's kind of a more compelling case for the guys that they do stick to offline like I did at the beginning of my FUT career, to stick with the game and to really put some time into it. Squad battles kind of brings that competitive edge. You are going against other people to see who can do the best against the computer, but you also, you're playing the computer. So you still have the control. I think it's going to be great for people that just, maybe you have a young baby or maybe you have a job that's a little bit more taxing than most. Maybe it requires you to work on weekends. You just can't possibly put in, the 40 games necessary each week to get the kind of rewards that you want. And that's okay. Now with squad battles, you'll be able to play. I'm not sure what the finalized number is going to be, whether it's 12, 16, 20, a reduced load, kind of spread out more over the course of the week, that then culminates with you getting some pretty good prizes. And I think that's going to be something that is enticing to a lot of people. And I think something else too that we haven't mentioned is just the refinement that they've put into the single player, going against the AI. I talked to some producers in Vancouver when I was there in July, and they mentioned that they took a lot of data from last year's weekend league to really kind of influence how the computer plays to make it feel more like you're playing a person. That's the number one complaint they hear, is that like it's just more fun to play against somebody.
Yeah.
So they're never, until we have machines completely capable of kind of like machine learning, I guess, habits and behaviors, it's not going to be one-to-one, but it's the best that I've played. And it's fun, and there's, a bigger delta. You win some, you lose some. I actually want to kind of drawing the ire of the YouTube commenters on Futhead on a video that I posted this morning when the embargo lifted from the capture event because I cut out the gameplay. One of the reasons I cut out the gameplay, besides just brevity and I think kind of keeping things a little bit terser and not having like a 20-minute video, although I'm sure some people would be into that. Shout out to those of you that love 20-minute gameplay videos. Was because I got my butt kicked. I lost 4-1 to the computer on the second highest difficulty, and it's like, I lost 3 times to the computer this week. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I lost. I think I was 3 goals down within about 15 minutes or something.
Something that I'm gonna go ahead and start this. I don't know. I don't want to call it a meme, but maybe borderline conspiracy theory. I've seen this like revenge goal thing. It's not necessarily the case in head-to-head. Head-to-head feels the same as always. There's always going to be those, Gorilla, I think, famously called it 45th minute BS in a little bit more colorful terms that you see at the end of halves, at the end of 90 minutes as well. There's just this like revenge goal factor in the computer though, where like if you score, the computer just seems to go up another level, which I guess to some extent we see this in like real football.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's like as you were saying about them plugging in data from weekend league, because people really do go for it after conceding a goal.
I think that's what the computer does, and so I wound up losing one in extra time that really cost me. If I just won it, I was playing on Legendary. I just needed one win to pass Marshall 89 HD and be the number 1 ranked player here, and I wound up blowing it in the 90th minute on a revenge goal and then losing in extra time. So
I think. And what I'm getting from this is if you love playing the computer, this is like dreamy.
I think it's gonna. I haven't played a ton of career mode. I've kind of dabbled a little bit with the new cutscenes and the new transfer negotiations and stuff like that. I look forward to kind of doing it more at the full release here in about 8-9 days when EA Access starts on Xbox One. But yeah, I think that's going to benefit too, is that it's going to be more fun to, like, especially if you're a grinder, if you came from the, like, SNES era where you had no ability to save these seasons and you just leave the game and the console on, eating up who knows how much electricity to kind of get through the entire campaign. If you're one of those people that play every single match, it's going to be more fun than it's ever been.
I'm really fascinated to see footage of a really top AI beta, if you like.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be, it is incredibly hard.
And it'll be fascinating to see the people at the top of the leaderboards, like if they decide to make the jump or if, they finish number 1 a couple times, like how are they going to look? There's no certainly, I think we're still a weeks away from kind of any, official word or anything on what FUT Champions looks like next year. But like, what if they had like some random tournament, like an exemption for the number one player over a couple months of single player? Like, how would they do against actual human comp? It might be interesting to see.
Really fascinating, yeah. But I think one of the key things, just to mention as a minor thing, but I think a lot of people, I know we have many mature listeners who have kids, and they're going to really enjoy the fact that you can just pause it as well. I think that's like such a minor thing, which is really underrated. You have to just stop at any point. You got to go look after your kid. You got to go.
It's not even just Futhead, readers, followers, commenters. We've got staff that they have newborns, 1-2-year-old children, and like they just can't get the time in that they'd like to for the game that they love. They obviously work on the game kind of as either in a full-time capacity or a part-time role, but I think this is going to be that bridge that you want to kind of keep one foot in. Even if you don't play, the 16, you can play 4, you can play 8. It's the same with Weekend League, and I think this was really lost on everyone, I think, because there was so much pressure from us seeing these pro players, the Tazes, the hashtag folks, that they grind every single weekend. Like some of them even play like 60, 80 games across like multiple accounts. You don't have to do that, You can. It's okay to finish bronze 3, bronze 2, and the same is going to be for squad battles.
Yeah, I mean, there is this interesting kind of gap in between, though. There are plenty of people who aren't really interested in offline. I can kind of see why there's a certain like show-off element to online, which I enjoy, like seeing people's creativity. Even like something excites me. So when someone actually has an interesting squad, or is using something you didn't expect, or does something on the pitch that you didn't really know about. I think all those things are really nice things about online, which obviously just mean that some people aren't really that interested in offline. And I wonder whether there is still a gap in between people who are really competitive in the weekend league and want to have the kind of Gold Cup players who often rocked up in the Gold Cup, maybe played a bit of divisions, but actually wanted to try out different teams. I don't know, are those people getting lost, or should they be happy with the daily knockout tournament, I suppose?
Yeah, there's still room for more, certainly. I think this is really more of like a polish and refinement here. I think the thing that a lot of folks will agree, I'm sure a vocal minority will disagree with me saying this, but FIFA 17 was one of, if not the best FIFAs. So I think that they took that approach. They saw the I guess daily active user numbers. They saw the metrics, which kind of influenced that. And I think that their kind of notions were like, let's take this solid foundation and like it's good, but it could be great. And I think that's what the focus is this year, is getting there. And the early returns seem to be in line with that. Yeah, I think that is kind of maybe sort of a void, or kind of something that's a little bit missing. But will those people not play the game? If they love it, they're going to play it, even if it feels a little similar for the second or third straight Ultimate Team. And I think there's still EA always has stuff up their sleeves, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what they introduce to try to cater to users like that.
Yeah,
kind of
and also they can always change it as they go, because we know they did that last year with the Weekend League. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe there is that kind of belief that we'll try it and see if it works again. So fair enough. Great to talk to you, Luke.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Hopefully have you back soon.
Absolutely.
So very kind of both ChuBoi and Luke from Futhead to join us for this very special podcast. But it doesn't get any less special because we've got at FUT Economist, aka Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ben?
Yes, very well. And we've also got Mitch, aka WyseFIFA. How are you?
Doing well as well. Can't complain.
Great. What I think we're going to get into right now is what people might want to do with their EA access. Just in case people didn't know, you can buy 1 month of EA access, get those 10 hours on Xbox. If you're on PlayStation, unfortunately, you're not able to do this. Jamie, what would you suggest people do with their 10 hours of EA access?
Yeah, I mean, so it's obviously you have a limited amount of time. So some of the sort of blanket tips that I can offer right off the bat is if you go for a break, you're definitely going to want to log out of the app completely. You're going to if you're going to back out of Ultimate Team, that's not enough, as it sort of normally is to get back from the web app. You want to totally quit out of FIFA 18 in general, so you don't have that timer running. As far as using your time most efficiently, if you are planning on using FIFA points, that's something that I would load up right away and then start using that on FUT drafts. I think if you are at least somewhat of a decent player, FUT drafts is probably the most efficient way to use your FIFA points and sort of buy yourself an entry to it. But even before you start playing those FUT drafts, I would go into the EA catalog and use your leftover EAFC points and use those to purchase everything from coin boosts to transfer list size boosts the kits, really anything you can get your hands on, any new things that they add this year would be definitely helpful. And especially helpful is those coin boosts before you go and play those FUT draft games. So that you can be earning as much as possible. So like the idea is to basically just maximize your time so that when you do go back to the web app after your 10 hours is up, you have the biggest war chest of coins possible so that you can then use that, the saying is you need money to make money. So you can have the largest sum of coins possible so you can then sort of throw your weight around in the early days of the transfer market after that.
And also, in terms of doing that FUT draft, it's worth noting that early on in the game, they won't be releasing any special packs. So it will just be your standard 2 gold packs that you'd see at any point in the year on the store. So those packs that you can get from FUT draft, the slightly better ones, are really, really gold dust, because you'll get maybe player packs and things like that. Massively increase your chances of getting usable players. Wise, do you have anything else you might suggest doing across that period?
Yeah, I mean, I know that's definitely a good tip, that make sure you're not wasting time on the EA Access trading. Leave that stuff for the web app. I guess if you want to explore some new things, squad battles could be, if they're releasing it at the same time, could be really good use to try a new feature out. But personally, I am a guy that just likes to play as many games as possible. Whether that be in divisions, drafts, that's a good comment. I might have to adopt that with my own gameplay this year, but I'm usually just a guy that gets in divisions. Make sure you're buying those coin boosts. That stuff makes a load of difference at the beginning of the game.
And yeah, it goes without saying, don't be ineffective with your time. Don't play kickoff. Don't do manager tasks, which actually take a surprising amount of time. Squad building, do that all on the web app. There was one great year when you could draft on the web app, which was just before they introduced draft. I think they're trying to get people into it. And that actually meant you could do your drafts on the app and then go into the game to play them, which really used your time effectively. I don't think they're going to introduce that on the web app this year. I think it was just for that year. But that'd be amazing if they did, because definitely do that, because drafts can take a bit of time. So don't dawdle over the players you're choosing, I suppose, is another point. But at the same time, you want to pick a good team. So there's a bit of a balance there. And also getting used to what players you might use in those drafts in this early stage. Remember that Matuidi's gone to Juventus, so he's not going to be there as an option in midfield as a French link at PSG. So there are all these kind of things to consider. Get yourself familiar with the players. It does help quite a lot.
Another thing that I like to do when I'm playing FUT draft, sort of early days, is to take notes on players that like really stood out to me. So especially if it's a player that I didn't recognize from last year, but I have in there for pure chemistry reasons. If they like stood out to me, that's something I want to take down and make a note of somewhere, because as we'll talk about in a little bit, players like that are really important to invest in and sort of catch early before the rest of the community does, so you can get ahead of the hype curve.
That's like really true. It's a great opportunity to test players out and not lose coins on players that you end up not wanting to use.
Right.
And so after EA Access, PlayStation players will get to access the game through the 3-day early access, which is also available on Xbox as well, of course. That is, I think it's the first year they've done that. So I wonder do you think, Jamie, that'll have any particular effect on the market? Will we see a slightly different market over those couple of days?
Yeah, most definitely. You could sort of use what we've seen in the past when the players were having access to EA Access and having those 10 hours is sort of similar to what's going to happen, I would anticipate, when PS4 players hop onto the market for the first time. And to sort of lay it out for you guys, what generally happens is during the web app, there isn't a whole lot of coins that come onto the market. Like there's sort of this fixed limit of coins that can come onto the market, and it's really just the amount of coins that people can generate from their starter packs and their daily gifts. And because of that, player prices tend to be really low at the start, especially some of the, like the lower tier, mid-tier players to like lower high-tier players tend to be like obnoxiously low, and looking back on it, like just crazy for what they end up settling at. So, but then what happens is when people load up FIFA points and they can start playing games in divisions and FUT draft, and they start to amass these totals of coins, is that you'll see the prices of some of the like super high-end players will spike way up. But then you also see that some of the lower and mid-tier players will actually drop way below what their settling points end up reaching. It's sort of this weird dynamic where the sort of elite, the people that are willing to spend more money on the game, will start to amass these sums of coins, these large sums of coins, and then they'll immediately divert all of that demand to the relatively small supply of the super elite tier, and you'll see that super elite tier go really high, while while they're opening up all those packs to get those coins, they're listing the mid and lower tier players at prices that are probably lower than what they should be. So what it does is it creates this sort of chasm between the higher end and the lower end players, which sort of obviously changes the dynamic for buying and investing, opens up a lot of inefficiencies in the market that lead to really good trading methods, and also really ripe opportunities for investing.
So let's talk about that in kind of the context of the time frame overall. We've got EA access, then we've got the early access. Am I right in thinking that this year that's actually across the world? Everyone comes on at the same time.
Yeah. Everybody should be getting the game at the same time during the release dates this year.
And so does that mean that there's going to be a kind of push that we didn't see previously where, I mean, the whole world coming on at the same time? I'd be worried for their servers, but I'd also be interested in what's going to happen to the market, because many people don't get involved in the web app, they don't get EA access, and they basically just splash money on points instantly because they know it's a good time to buy packs. And you'll see, presumably, this will mean prices will drop even further than they have previously on that first day, but then also on the day when it actually comes out without the early access. It'll be interesting to see how that falls, I suppose. Are we going to get more people opening packs and lower player prices on that first day when people come to the game, or will it be when people get the proper game release?
Right, yeah. I mean, I know that it's a little bit unique this year that everybody's coming on at the same time. I know that in the past people were able to change their locations on their consoles and get the games at different times, but it's going to be one of those things where, I mean, it's going to have the same general trend. A lot of people are going to be opening packs at the same time, but this time it's just going to be amplified, and it's going to be within like a shorter period of time, I guess, because if everybody's on at the same time, they're going to be opening packs like regular, so there'll be more deals to be had initially. But at the same time, the luster, how many packs they'll buy would have gone at different times based on the geography. So you would have had different deals at different times. But since everybody's coming on at once, you're going to see it probably happen in a shorter window. I mean, there still will be some of those deals because it might come out at midnight in Asia or something like that. So there's going to be a little bit of pack difference of when they're opened, but just going to be more magnified and probably a shorter period of time this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then in terms of the first weekend league, that's going to be the thing that I would imagine drives up the prices of certain players. In fact, Jamie, initially, those prices are going to be quite low because of all these people opening packs and trying to gain money. People end up often just discarding stuff because they just want the coins, basically.
Right.
And there aren't many people buying. So it's an interesting time. I mean, to me, that sounds like a great investment opportunity. Pick up players at that point and then sell them come weekend league.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. One of the things that consistently works is investing in sort of that forgotten tier of players that are going to be, overpowered and sought after for those weekend league squads. Looking at popular leagues, popular nations with strong stats, especially in positions that can oftentimes get isolated or are like sort of the only option in a specific league or a specific nation. Good examples of that are like French left and right backs. The rest of the team was really strong around it, especially in the midfield and the attack, but the left and right back position were particularly weak and lacked a lot of depth. So like those were sort of the areas that you can target. If you can find other examples of that, you'll definitely be set in that sort of investing technique.
Perfect. No, that sounds really, really promising. And then the other thing that I've always had success with in the past, Wise, I don't know whether this is something you've done, but buying the Team of the Week items from the very first Team of the Week. Last year, for example, Nkulu came out. I think he's Cameroonian centre-back, of course, right. Plays in Ligue 1. I can't remember what team he was at the time. I think
he was at Lyon.
Lyon, yeah, that's it, yeah. So when he came out, nobody was particularly interested in him because he's an expensive inform, and why would you buy an expensive inform with decent stats when you can get other players who perhaps have better stats? But what I did was bought a couple of him at the time. He was actually kind of like more expensive than you'd probably want to pay. He was like 20 to 25k. But literally within a few weeks, once people had started to amass coins, significant amount of coins, there are only so many inform cards on the market, and people want to use these special items. People want to try them out. So come like, I don't know, maybe a month in, he was like 50k, and I'd used him for a while in my team and he was very good. So that kind of first wave of informs, which many people miss out on because they don't have the game yet, actually come a few weeks time. I think they seem to increase. And I've done that for years, and it always seems quite effective, actually.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that that's a good thing to look out for. I know that I think I did the same thing with Chadley. I think he was in that same team of the week 1 that year. And it's definitely a good thing, especially with the weekend league this year. Now people know what it actually is. They want to be competitive. So these informs, these special cards offer a good insight into, some players that are the best at the beginning of the game. So I definitely can see their price rising initially. Like Jamie said a little bit earlier, like there's not as many coins on the market, so players like that might actually be frustratingly low. And so when you get to the time when the first weekend leagues come out, it's gonna be a couple of weeks into the game most likely, and people are finally getting some more coins back. They're amassing their FUT fortunes. They are going to want to look for those players, and you're going to see those players' prices rise. I love trading informs, and I could talk to you guys all day about it, but maybe that's to elaborate on at a later pod.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's always been a very viable method. And at the start of the game, when people are kind of just constantly amassing coins, trying to move up to better players, I think they do kind of have they have a certain allure that maybe they don't have the rest of the year, actually, once you get other special cards in.
Right.
So it does work quite well.
And one other technique sort of based on the first team of the week that's really helpful to invest in, and maybe not necessarily the first team of the week because it's likely going to drop on the 20th, so it'd be tough to use this, but maybe the second team of the week is investing in the non-inform versions of those cards. Believe it or not, they actually provide better returns in terms of like percentage profit than actually investing in the team of the week cards themselves, and they do it faster. If you just sort of think about it, if you invest in those cards, the sort of thesis behind it is that they go out of packs, especially if they're desirable cards, and people are going to buy them, and there's no further cards coming into the market because their only card on the market is the inform card. Fruitful method, and the same thing you can apply is in the same sort of thinking is with the 1-to-watch cards. They're actually going to drop this year. They've been confirmed to drop on the 29th, which is the date the full game is launching worldwide. So if you can invest in the 1-to-watch non-rare, like the non-1-to-watch versions of whoever's going to be getting a 1-to-watch card, and there's people out there that are going to be doing predictions about who those 1-to-watch cards are, including ourselves. Then you can basically just make sure that you're investing in them, or like have one card of whoever it is that you think is going to be overpowered or desirable, and when they go out of packs for however long they do at the launch of the game, then they're sure to go up. If you looked at Renato Sanchez last year, obviously he was particularly coveted because of his FIFA skills in game, but he actually went from just around like 8K before his 1-to-watch drop to well over like 40K.
No, that's going to be pretty effective. I think investing around 1-to-watch is always quite a good idea. And actually, the fact that 1-to-watch comes so far before Weekend League does suggest there's plenty of room for prices to rise in the lead up to that Weekend League the following week. So, Wise, what would you say in terms of actual kind of techniques people can use, like more active approaches rather than just sitting on players?
Yeah, of course. I have a few methods that I personally like the most. I'm a big fan of trading a lot of cards. That's my gig. I mean, I know certain people like to sit on investments or something like that, but I like to rapidly move across them. And so a couple of the big things I do are kind of mass bid on players at the beginning of the game. You can do this for non-rares or silvers, or non-rare golds or silvers. And what you do is you just make sure you have your price filter or your quality filter at gold and your price filter to like max price to the lowest that they usually can go, and then you just scroll through the players looking for players that are in good leagues or have some desirable stats such as pace, and of course that's all position relative. I mean, you're going to want to make sure that you can pick up a center back that's got some good pace, but at the same time like striker and attacking pace has got to be a little bit higher. Dribbling's a good stat, and shooting. And just to circle back to the leagues, I mean, you're looking at leagues like the BPL, La Liga, Serie A, but also don't be afraid to venture out into some other littler leagues, I guess you could say, like Liga NOS, Pro League, Russian League. Those are all good shouts for this method too. Then just list them up overnight in the UK or in North America, wherever you're at, for a few hundred coins more, and just see the profit rise, and then just repeat with those. Another little technique, if you aren't feeling super comfortable with the competition of like the actual players, is I always like to look into like rare consumables. You can also make this an investing technique. And what you want to do there is just no one at the beginning of the game, not a lot of people are using consumables, especially fitness and position change. People see those as like luxuries or something like that. They kind of forget about them. But at the same time, then they list them for really low like start prices. And so you can make a killing on that, especially with the fitness cards. You want to make sure you're picking up some squad fitness cards before those first weekend leagues. I mean, and you're going to be able to like double, maybe even triple if you get in at the right time, your coins, because people are going to want to clamor to get these plus 30 squad fitnesses or the center forward to striker cards. Like those always make some good money. Those are the two probably biggest factors, I'd say, just some mass bidding on non-rares, gold and silvers, as well as investing in some rare consumables.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And of course, if there's someone you think maybe for an SBC, maybe they're not really going to sell for much, maybe it's just worth keeping it. I think my biggest tip last year, and I didn't really buy many points, and I wasn't a heavy trader, but just selling off stuff for SBCs is going to make you an absolute fortune. So keep hold of stuff if you think it may be useful. But obviously at the same time, as you say, you need money to make money, so don't hold on to too much, otherwise you won't have that kind of coin balance to be able to make the investments you want at that stage. But yeah, and the other thing is make sure you play the game. I mean, if you're going to play the first weekend league, make sure you're getting to play it so that you can get yourself onto a decent level when you come to actually going into FUT Champions. And actually talking of SBCs in the first kind of, I don't know, couple of weeks or days, do you think there are going to be many in that initial kind of stage of the game? Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate that there's going to be something. Guessing exactly what there is, what's going to come out is probably a little bit more of a little bit more risky business, if you will. With the tagline being last year of expect the unexpected, I highly doubt that they're going to repeat the sort of schedule of last year verbatim. But using history as our guide, there's a couple things that we can sort of generally anticipate or be prepared for. The first is league SBCs. Last year they released a Giovinco and a Jonas. I think it was like the day after, or maybe 2 days after the web app came out. So you can maybe anticipate that something is going to come in terms of like a league SBC relatively soon after the launch of the web app or after EA access. There's also the potential for a marquee matchups to come out the 28th, which is the day before the official launch of like the full game. There's a chance that that's going to come out. So there's going to be plenty of predictions that you can look at. We'll have predictions up on FUT Economist, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other elsewhere that you can look at to prep your investings for that. Then finally, there's also there's two more. There's the Player of the Month Mane SBC. Honestly, I think of all these SBCs that I've just rattled off, I think there's a good chance that one is going to be skipped out on by EA, because if you look on Twitter, every trader who has some sort of Player of the Month investing guide up already, we have this sort of friendly rivalry with the content producers there, where they sort of try and throw us off, or at least maybe it's all in my head, but I genuinely think they try and throw us off sometimes.
I think that's probably genuine.
Yeah, I think that is too.
So
So I think the point is, be wary of people, I guess, suggesting stuff, because actually if a lot of people are suggesting it, EA can be onto that. And actually I think in the early stages, you'll see some quite broad requirements.
Yeah.
There just aren't. There isn't a huge database of players. There are lots of players trying to sort of do these things, so they kind of have to be a bit more catch-all, I think, in these early stages.
Right. So Ben's point is basically don't listen to me or Wise.
Right.
Never listen to anything Jamie says. It's
No.
something that's gone well for me.
No, yeah, I'm just gonna, if I can jump in here real quick. There's one thing that we talk about these SBCs that could be really interesting is the fact that their requirements, if they're general, is nice, but with the league SBCs, there was a really big push last year, especially for the MLS one, for the bronze pack method. Yeah, that's right. All of our favorite pack methods. I mean, who doesn't love opening packs? But if they're gonna have requirements and they do a league SBC where you need a lot of players from teams that have bronze or silver players, then the bronze pack methods are going to be a really good option. And I know that we just were talking about some of the methods, so I think that's a good thing that as a FUT player you guys should be looking out for, just making sure that you actually keep these requirements in mind, and it's just another method to add to your arsenal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that there was some particularly expensive players in the MLS and in the Liga NOS last year, so always watch out. I mean, it goes without saying, but be careful when listing a player. Just make sure that you're not underselling a player, especially if those league SBCs are out. So I think one of the things that I always think every year, which a lot of people underrate, is just being careful about when you sell your players, when you buy your players, kind of picking your moments in terms of picking up certain players can really save you a load of coins. And actually, although active trading is important, it's as important you protect like your investments. If you've got a good team, which you'll want to have for FUT Champions, you've got to make sure you're looking after that. And so do you guys have any particular recommendations where to put your coins in the early stages? I mean, obviously you want to invest, but you also want to have a cheap team probably set up, and you can use that as your fitness team, or you can upgrade, or there are various ways you can go about it. Wise, first of all, what's a league you'd recommend?
Yeah, no, I love the start of the FIFA for these teams because I think it's just overall a great time to find hidden gems and maybe use some leagues that in about a month or two you're not going to be able to use. And this year, even though I just said that, I'm going to be a huge proponent of the Serie A, or the Calcio A, however you say it. I think that league looks stacked from starter squad to elite tier players. They got some really good midfielders options, of course, and then strikers. They got some serious pace. The only area that I'd like to see is their center back option. I just like to see a little bit more of those. But other than that, I'm going to be a big Calcio A fan. And if we're going to go for a hipster recommendation here, let's see. The Turk League is probably somewhere where I'll be looking to maybe a little bit of hybrid or fitness squad with those are probably my two favorite things.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've identified two leagues which interest me, Liga NOS and Calcio A. I think probably start with that Liga sort of NOS option, the Portuguese league, and then maybe you could go into Calcio A as you try and build a more elite squad. Very cheap to start with, and then you can build that. And maybe you want to use the coins to invest in things. So then you start building that. Yeah, Jamie, what are you thinking to start off?
So I'm pretty lame, I think.
I mean, we all know that. Like, can you tell us something a bit more insightful?
Well, I mean, I was hoping to get beyond that, Ben. But the league that I'm going to go with is the Premier League. It's about as stock and boring as it gets. But for those that follow me and sort of my club management philosophy will know that I rarely change my team. In fact, I changed it made major changes to it 3 times last year. And one of my big things when I'm looking for my starter league is, can I use this team long term? And the Premier League is the league I think is going to be the most valuable this year in terms of, what's going to work for the play style that I think is sort of going to be the meta for, what FIFA works in FIFA 18, FIFA 15, works in FIFA 18. I think it's going to be like wing play followed by, cutting inside with the threat of being able to cross it at the same time. And I think there's strikers and wingers in the Premier League that are going to be best suited for that. So I'm sort of set on the Premier League already. But, Ben, I'd be more interested in your colored opinion of, what you've sort of experienced from, the actually getting to play the game at the capture event. Maybe you can even change my mind.
Yeah.
The thing about the Premier League, as you say, is there's always plenty of options. So you can kind of adapt as you go. And there are plenty of those kind of decent starter players, but also you can build your way up slowly. There's plenty of options. And the league that I think we were just speaking about, the Portuguese league, I think for me has some really standout lower rated players. So what I did was I made a kind of hybrid when I was there at the capture event of low rated players that you can definitely get for cheap. And there was a bit of a problem in that I couldn't get Rabiot because he was a non-rare and everyone was opening rare packs. So that ruined the team slightly. But I'll talk about sort of 2 hybrid kind of corners that I created, which were really effective. So the first one, Vincent Abubakar, mentioned him in the last podcast. He is a monster. I mean, he's got the 5-star skills. See, Wise there just putting his 5 fingers up to indicate how excited he is as well. It is going to be pretty exciting to play with him. He's got the big kind of physical body type. So I think that is important in this game to have someone who can kind of hold it up. You can't shield effectively with weak players, so that is obviously important. Everyone knows I like my 5-star skills, and at this stage of the game is a great opportunity to use players that are lower rated but have 5-star skills. And then I also got Gelson Martins, who gets that weak link. Mentioned him as well last week, but I can talk more about the fact he has 5-star skills now and the fact that he's really, really rapid. He has 94 pace, which is huge. Both of them have 3-star weak foot, which is probably the only real downside to them. And then you can just put Danilo Pereira, the CDM from Porto in between them, and he gets a link to both, so that works quite nicely. They were obviously really effective. I scored some quite nice goals, and actually if you look at Kieran, aka Scouting for FIFA, his YouTube channel, you probably see some videos of that team in action. Actually, it was very effective. That sort of 3 was very good. But what I find most interesting about that was I was playing a 4-4-2. Now, I don't know have you guys had much experience with the 4-4-2 at all? Did you use it much?
Rarely.
No, definitely not last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a formation that hardly anyone uses. We saw Shells, one of the pro players, do very well with it. But actually, I could never use it. And one of the reasons, because I just felt like the top 2 just stayed in the same place. Kind of want one of them to drop into the middle to take up a more creative role. And I had Ben Arthur as one of the strikers and Abubakar as the other. And actually, I found instructions were much more effective this year.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's something they've done to player positioning or some way they've changed the AI. So Ben Arthur with false 9 instructions really did play like a centre forward, second striker, rather than a striker, and that allowed Abubakar to kind of push up and play the striker role properly. So that was quite an interesting thing, and maybe suggest there might be slightly more flexibility in terms of what formations you feel you can play this year, which would be great.
Yeah.
And then I also found with the left back and right back, they'd also stay back if you stay back on them, which was not necessarily the case. So that's really good to see, and I can't confirm that this is going to be the case. It may just have been the players that I was using. You can never quite tell, but it's certainly promising. And the defence I had was also very solid, and there were 3 Russian league players, all Russians, that I used along the back, and I'd recommend all of them. So you've got Smolnikov, who was very good last year, high rated, but he's in the Russian league. Goalkeeper, this guy called Guilhem. He was previously Brazilian, and he's an absolute giant, now a Russian, so very nice to link up. He looks astonishing in the games that I used him. If you watch that video of me playing Kieran, you'll see the saves that he pulls off. It's bizarre because keepers I didn't feel were particularly effective on that build of the game, so it's well worth looking at that. But maybe the big keeper body type could be the way forward. But there was this particular centre-back, and I apologise to any Russians listening in, but his name's Dzikia, I believe. He basically, you'll find him by knowing that he's 82 pace and has 76 defending, 77 physical, and he's 6'2". He's a monster. He's also left-footed, so you can play him on the left-hand side, although I was playing on the right. He's not particularly good on the ball, but he has 85 strength, which is rare on a player that quick. And he also has 91 acceleration as part of that pace stat. So his sprint speed is 75, but the fact his acceleration is so high just means he can move himself across to wherever you want him to be very quickly. And I think that's one of the toughest things about defending this year is actually getting towards the ball without someone going past you. So his bit of acceleration, I think, is going to be really helpful. Of course, as I said, his strength is very good, and his defensive stats, they're not particularly high. They're kind of what you'd expect on a player of this kind of overall. But yeah, a player I'd strongly recommend, a little 3 strong linked corner that would work very well, I feel, at this early stage of the game. And of course, the other 3 as well. So that's a nice little combo. If you want a hybrid early on, that'll work quite nicely. But also it shows that maybe the Russian league has a bit of potential this year, which it didn't in previous years, just because the centre-backs being so slow.
Very interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll... I can't say that you convinced me, but maybe I'll make a fit.
It's all right. I don't need you to pretend. So, before we finish, I know both of you have been working on something with Futhead. I believe you're going to send a number of guides and useful bits of information through them. Jamie, do you want to sort of tell everyone a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, we have hoping to do a lot of content through Futhead this year. Really excited about it. Especially looking to put out a lot of content pre-FIFA 18, get you guys ready for, trading and investing, best practices for managing your club. A lot of stuff that we actually just talked about, but in like more in depth, sort of going into like the nitty gritty sort of, exactly timing and really just giving examples and, basically a longer format that should be helpful for people that are trying to base their decisions off of. Rather than just giving like sort of like a general idea. And obviously you can just find that on Futhead's page and through their social media. Hopefully they'll be linking that at some point.
I believe I'm right in thinking that actually when they listen to this, they might be able to find your first article on Futhead. Even.
Yeah, it might even be 2 by the time you put this out. So.
Oh, wow. Spoiling us. What you like. Look out for them on there. And if they want to follow you guys personally and hear your thoughts, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter at WyseFIFA, and that's just Wise with a Y.
Great. And Jamie? At @FUT Economist.
You got it.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both, as always. Great to get your insights, and we look forward to hearing many more of them across this year. And I should mention at this point, normally we'll probably take a bit of time to discuss the current events around FUT, as well as the team of the week, and go into depth into that. Any new sort of SBCs or special cards we'll discuss in depth, give you some trading advice as always, and at the end we'll get into some player reviews, which normally consists of Jamie desperately thinking of players because he doesn't use anyone but 11 players across the entire year. But on that bombshell, I think it's time to end this week's podcast. Thank you to EA and to you, listener, for making our attendance at the FIFA 18 capture event possible. Have a great start to FUT 18. That might be the end of the podcast, but the discussion doesn't end there. We want to hear your thoughts on FUT 18. Drop us a tweet at FUTweeklyPod or email futweekly@mail.com. If you haven't subscribed already, you can do so through a whole range of options by going to futweeklypodcast.com/subscribe. Or you can just search FUT Weekly via your podcast platform of choice.